Live from the broadcasting headquarters of TV47 here in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. Good evening and a very warm welcome to the Daily Report on this 15th day of July 2024. I am George Maringa. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Catherine Simaloy. As is the norm every Monday, we bring you interesting conversations. And tonight, as is the saying of the Kikuyu proverb, an old man sitting on a stool can see further than a young man who has climbed a tree. And I'm talking about my guest tonight, Professor Peter Kagwanja. He is a Kenyan intellectual and advisor, a reform strategist and policy thinker on governance, security and African affairs. He is my guest tonight. And tonight we look at the whole conundrum of what we've seen in the last few weeks, even as we look at what lies ahead and what probable actions can be taken so as to cure and to change the future of this country. Tonight we ask, which way Kenya? Welcome to the broadcast. 22047 is our SMS line. I am at George Maringa _ across the socials. You can also post to X, formerly Twitter, at TV47 News. His handle is at Prof Kagwanja. Go ahead and channel your questions, thoughts and feedback regarding the show tonight. We thank you for choosing TV47 to inform you. That conversation with my guest tonight will be coming your way a little bit later on the program. But first, let's give you a glimpse of what's making headlines in the world of news. Tonight, the number of bodies retrieved in the Mukuru dumpsite rises to 12.
Mwili lazima zinaletwa kwa gari na ni hizo lori. Huenda huwa zinakuja na hizo lori na zingine pia zinakuja kutupwa. Hawezi niambia mtu atatoka huko na bodi amebeba kwa mgongo atakuja atupe.
As residents decry this slow process.
Vijana mimi nawarudishia shukrani wa vijana Mukuru ndio wamejitolea wanatoa hii mili. Na kuna disaster management, Kenya disaster management ambayo millions of shillings zinatengwa kwa hiyo watu.
Serious questions emerge following DCI's announcement of an arrest in the Mukuru bodies probe.
We have this morning arrested the prime suspect, already identified to you guys by the Acting Inspector General, known as Collins Jumaisa Halusha.
Nataka watu watununulie vijana ati wafanye fujo katika Kenya. Vijana sio wa kufanya fujo. Vijana ni wa kufanya kazi.
President William Ruto calls out foreign entities accused of funding chaos witnessed during the anti-government protests.
Those who are behind the anarchy in Kenya, those who are behind the sponsoring the chaos in the Republic of Kenya, shame on them.
Tonight, we also bring you an update on the elections in Rwanda. You want to stand by for that and much more right here on TV47, the home of untold stories. We thank you for choosing us to inform you. Let's get the show on the road, shall we? And President William Ruto has cautioned financiers of chaos in the country that manifested during the anti-government protests, accusing foreign entities of bankrolling anarchy. The president was speaking in Mukuru County, where he gave the entities an ultimatum to either desist from funding chaos or leave the country. Chichi Josephine was on the president's trail and opens our broadcast tonight with that report.
We want peace.
Tonight, a stern warning for foreign entities said to be funding chaos in the country, most of those witnessed in the recent anti-government protests.
Wale ambao wana sponsor hiyo violence, sisi tunawajua. And I want to call out those who are behind the anarchy in Kenya, those who are behind the sponsoring the chaos in the Republic of Kenya. Shame on them.
The president, while on a stopover during the laying of the foundation stone for Keringet Market, Kuresoi South, Nakuru County, singling out the Ford Foundation, an American private foundation of sponsoring violence during the anti-government protests, which saw at least 40 people dead.
Mimi nataka niulize watu wa Ford Foundation watuambie hiyo pesa wanatoa ifanye fujo ndio wapate faida gani?
According to the president, the foundation could have hired goons to cause mayhem during the protests, which led to the destruction of both public and private property, including parliament and also looting of businesses.
Nataka watu watununulie vijana ati wafanye fujo katika Kenya. Vijana sio wa kufanya fujo. Vijana ni wa kufanya kazi.
While insisting on the democracy and sovereignty of the country, the president asked the foundation to shape up or leave.
We are going to call them out and we are going to tell them if they are not interested in democracy in Kenya, if they are going to sponsor violence, if they are going to sponsor anarchy, we are going to call them out and we are going to tell them they either style up or they leave.
A claim made also online. The president, who was accompanied by a host of leaders led by his deputy Rigathi Gachagua, used the platform to lay out his plans, which he says will bring millions of jobs and in turn spur economic growth.
Next month mimi nakuja hapa Lanet kuja kuanzisha manyumba 2,000 pale. Tunahitaji architect, tunahitaji plumber, tunahitaji engineer pale, tuanze kujenga kupata ajira, vijana wetu waweze kusonga mbele.
The president also inspected the Nakuru bus park, presented a bus to Ngata Welfare Association from Rongai, inspected the Nakuru multi-purpose market, and officially opened the Technical Training Institute.
We are building another 18 markets to take care of fresh produce, and Mama Mbogas will operate from a place of decency.
Chichi, Josephine, TV47.
And we shall be having a discussion about that with my guest tonight, Professor Peter Kagwanja. Do stay with us. The number of bodies retrieved from the Kware dumpsite has risen to 12, with 2 packages containing human remains retrieved on Monday. Area residents have decried the slow process, which has seen the retrievers search without any government assistance. They're now calling for respective government organs to facilitate the exercise by providing cranes, as more bodies are believed to be trapped in the deadly dumpsite. Mike Kagwanja reports.
The shocking tales of Kware in Mukuru Kagwanja, Monday morning. A crowd gathered at the scene to have a glimpse of the developments amid tensions. These men and women, both young and elderly, came together for an apparently sluggish operation due to a lack of equipment in order to assist in navigating and retrieving bodies they are unsure whose. The 4th day saw the recovery of 2 body sacks of polythene bags holding human body parts, adding to the enigma surrounding the disfigured corpses. According to locals, some had burns and seemed to have been killed elsewhere and dumped at the site near Kware police station.
Hizi mwili lazima zinaletwa kwa gari na ni hizo lori. Huenda huwa zinakuja na hizo lori na zingine pia zinakuja kutupwa. Hawezi niambia mtu atatoka huko na bodi amebeba kwa mgongo atakuja atupe, ama atiteletwa na ndege itupwe. Unaona, zinakuja na lori.
Hawa vijana mimi nawarudishia shukrani wa vijana Mukuru, ndio wamejitolea wanatoa hii mili. Na kuna disaster management, Kenya disaster management, ambayo millions of shillings zinatengwa kwa hiyo watu. Zinafanya nini?
Area residents have also suspected potential links to cult activities, serial killers or rogue medical practitioners that attributed to the fateful discovery.
Tunakisia wenye wanafanya hii mauaji kunaweza kuwa labda ndani kuna hii story na mambo na ushirikina, mambo na devil worshipping. Juu ukiangalia hata zile mili venye zimekatwa the same zote, unakuta zimekatwa nusu, bodi ya juu iko, ya chini yana. So tunashindwa ya chini inaenda wapi. Unapata ingine ya chini iko but miguu nayo imekatwa bado imewekwa kando. Then unapata watu wote wako pale ndani ni wasichana. Hakuna mali tumeona kijana. Na ukiangalia wengine bado wako na mavazi.
Mr. Arthur Sakaja, you are like our father and you know this is your place. Please, we have not seen you since day one.
Preliminary investigations reveal that all of the bodies recovered were female and severely dismembered, Rescue operations to continue Tuesday. The sacks believed to be containing remains of human body parts are situated more than 10 meters from the wall, making it difficult for residents to retrieve more bodies. They are now calling for government to chip in and provide more sophisticated equipment, including cranes, to facilitate the exercise. Mike, Kagwanja, TV47, from Mukuru, Kagwanja, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mike. Questions have emerged following DCI's announcement that 33-year-old Collins Jomaisi Halusha could be behind the killing of persons whose bodies are being retrieved at the quarry in Mukuru, Kagwanja in Nairobi County. Many questioning the facts, including how come no one saw Halusha dump 42 bodies at the dump site? How come police officers in the nearby police station never noticed any suspicious activity? And were there cases of missing persons reported in the Kayole Mukuru police station? And Odida reports.
Following the discovery of 12 bodies dumped in a quarry in Nairobi's Mukuru Kagwanja area, investigators have now arrested 33-year-old Collins Jomaisi Halusha, the man believed to have committed the murders. Police say he admitted to killing 42 women in the last 2 years.
The suspect was arrested at Soweto in Kayole sub-county this morning at around 3 a.m. in a joint operation by the DCI and the National Police Service officers.
According to the DCI, the prime suspect was arrested in Kayole area while in the process of luring another woman.
As we were apprehending him last night, or even this morning, he was in the process of luring another victim by the name Susan. We are yet to identify. I'm sure as we progress with investigations, we should be able to get hold of Susan so that she will be able to give us her side of the story.
A raid on Halusha's house uncovered a chilling collection of items, including 10 mobile phones, 7 identity cards, 10 SIM cards, a panga, gloves, and several sacks identical to those found with the bodies at the dump site.
Investigations are still ongoing, and the suspect's house and the dumping site will remain active crime scenes.
And while the police continue with the investigations, women leaders have labeled the incident as a blatant case of femicide, further demanding for accountability from security officials.
We demand accountability from all the security chiefs responsible for the area surrounding Mukuru Kagwanja.
He claims that he has done this to 42 women. Takes us back to a conversation we've had with the National Police Service over the years. The need to have gender desks in every police station or police post.
From the Gender Commission, this is femicide, which was so rampant at the beginning of the year. But today, I'm so saddened that it even started earlier than that.
As the search and recovery efforts continue, pressing questions arise. Were these killings the work of an individual or part of a broad operation involving a group of gangs? Ann Odida, TV47.
Thank you, Anne, for that. Tonight, the call made by President William Ruto for a national dialogue following the anti-government protests remains unanswered. The talks that were set to commence today through the National Multi-Sectoral Forum were meant to stop the anti-government revolt, but it seems it is now elusive. The agencies have rejected the initiative and have insisted that the demonstrations occupy Central Business District on Tuesday are still on. Moigo William with a full report.
President William Ruto had announced plans to convene a 6-day consultative meeting following youth-led protests across the country. The venue, who was to attend, and the program remains a mystery as the convener was busy inspecting development projects in Nakuru, where he urged the youth to shun violence.
Vijana wetu wa Kenya, tafadhali msikubali ati watu wafanye nchi yetu iwe ni nchi ya kupigana, ya kuharibu mali na ya fujo.
Last week, during a press conference at the Kenyatta International Conference Center, during the signing of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill into law, the President asked various stakeholders to present their representatives by Friday.
Kenya, being the resilient people we always are, to come together and figure out the future of our country in a manner that makes sure that we address the existential challenges.
Azimio leader Raila Odinga had initially supported the move but changed tune over the weekend, following immense pressure from a section of Azimio leaders and young people to ignore the forum.
No dialogue. No dialogue. No dialogue. Kufanya mazungumzo na watu wanawaua. Wangapi anasema mazungumzo tawe? Kule Siaya wanasema no dialogue.
It is not clear whether the consultative meeting will take place or not, especially now that the youth have planned fresh protest on Tuesday as their push for political reforms continue.
Wale viongozi wetu katika county government, this demonstration is trickling down. We are coming to those offices pia tutaanza kuoccupy even the counties, so that injustices should not just end at the national but at the county level.
It will be a very peaceful demonstration. We have our field marshals who will be there to make sure that hakuna kitu ya mtu itaguzwa.
Sisi tunataka kesho hata kama maandamano itakuwa tunataka ile ya amani.
Amani. Mwege William, TV47.
Thank you, Mega William. And of course, that will also form part of the conversation with my guest tonight, Professor Peter Kagwanja, who is already in the building. Religious leaders have called for peace to prevail during demonstrations planned by Gen Z youth expected to take place across the country tomorrow, even as they urged the young people to give dialogue a chance. Speaking at the Donham Day, Karen Catholic bishops, led by their chairman, Bishop Maurice Mohatia, condemned the violence that has been witnessed in the country, urging the youth not to be the source of criminal incidents. A similar call was made by Muslim leaders from Western Kenya, also urging the police to provide adequate security to prevent criminal incidents during the demonstrations.
It is a step towards assuring Kenyans that building functional government systems to improve service delivery is possible. We ask the President to make good his promise to consult widely before making appointments to the vacant cabinet secretaries' positions. We emphasize the need to consider integrity among other values in the new appointments as stipulated in our Constitution. We also ask the President to reconsider appointments in all other critical public appointments.
We don't want more deaths. We want to move forward, and as has been said in our statement, towards a constructive, inclusive conversation.
Abductions we have witnessed in the past 3 weeks are disheartening. Those responsible for giving legitimate orders must take personal responsibilities. We are a country with laws that govern how law and order should be dispensed.
Kule kukutana kwao naamini imeweza kuleta utulivu kiasi fulani na wanaweza kurekebisha pamoja. Raila Odinga ni mzee na hakuangalia habari ya upinzani wala hakuangalia habari ya chama, ameangalia maslahi ya nchi, na hivi inavyotakikana mtu mzima wakati kunakuwa na matatizo na aweza kuketi chini na kuangalia maslahi ya nchi kuweka mbele kuliko maslahi ya chama chake, kuliko maslahi za jamaa zake, kuliko maslahi yake za kibinafsi.
Motorists will continue paying more for fuel after the government raised a road maintenance levy by 7 shillings. The imposed levy will see fuel prices drop marginally despite a significant reduction in the landing cost, with fears that the extra cost on PSVs will be passed on to millions of Kenyans. President Ruto has, however, defended the increase, arguing it will increase revenue for maintaining roads.
Before the sudden ouster from office, immediate former Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen had assured Kenyans that despite the increasing maintenance needs for public roads, the government would not increase the road maintenance levy, which was already at a steep 18 shillings per litre.
The problem of maintenance of our roads, we will solve it together as a people of Kenya. We and in the ministry will provide leadership. We are going to think, and we will come back to you with solutions that will not transfer the prices of fuel, make it higher than it is at the moment for the people of Kenya, because we have had you.
This statement, made during the peak of protests against the finance bill, technically was true, as the fuel prices did not in fact increase this month, but reduced by a shilling for petrol, a shilling and 50 cents for diesel, and a shilling and 30 cents for kerosene. But the contentious levy was still deducted from each litre, breaking the promise made during the public participation exercise of maintaining the levy as is in the foreseeable future. A close look at the report from the Ministry of Roads and Transport on public participation held on the 8th of this month that the ministry would execute measures that would increase the levy without increasing the cost of fuel beyond the current prices. It further goes on to recommend that the levy be reviewed as proposed by matching the increase of the road maintenance levy with a reduction of prices of fuel, and that should be done in consultation with the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum before gazetting. But gazetted it was, and actioned as well in the fuel prices this month, despite the lack of cabinet secretaries in both ministries.
Angalia vile tunafanya kazi, cost kubwa sana inaenda kwa mafuta. So tunapata the income tunapata iko chini kwa sababu ya the cost of fuel.
Tunataka serikali kama ni iangalie fuel irudishe hata kama ni 100 ifike 100. Hadi sasa ndio wale watu wa chini kama sisi ndio tufikie sasa.
No matter, the price changes were passed last night. Instead of finding alternate means of funding or simply living within our means as advised severally by the head of state, Kenyans on the topic had varying sentiments.
You just do simple arithmetic. Ufanye hesabu kidogo. Uniambie ukinipatia shilingi 1. Alafu uninyang'anye 5. Hiyo ni kunisaidia ama ni kunyang'anya?
Bado tunaona kuna pesa zile serikali inapata. Mafuta ikifika Mombasa, tunajua inafikaga na pesa gapi pa lita ini Mombasa, tunajua. Na tunaona hiyo sio hiyo pesa ambaye serikali inaokota.
Tulikuwa tunaongea kupitia waziri aliyeondoka, tukasema ya kwamba vile maisha imekaa na vile mambo iko, tulikuwa tumemwambia ya kwamba aondoe hiyo mambo ya mafuta, hiyo mambo ya load levy, hizo changes zote aondoe.
In the price per litre breakdown this month, landing cost for petrol reduced by 4.65%, bringing the total cost to around 92 shillings per litre. Albeit a good indicator of international oil prices, the addition of various levies, taxes, and the OMC margin brings it up to double this amount. The president, while commissioning the bus park in Mukuru County, lauded the idea of adding on to the levy without disrupting the already existing prices. And while one might say that a 1 shilling drop in fuel prices might be marginal, a potential 7 shilling drop would have helped the matatu sector, not only the public transport sector, but even the private transport sector. And now with the confusion on raising the levy even further, a lot of Kenyans ask, what next? Hibak Said for TV47 in Nairobi.
Indeed, pertinent questions. Thank you, Hibak. Vote counting is underway in Rwanda after an election which incumbent Paul Kagame is expected to win. More than 9 million Rwandans registered to vote in the elections that will also decide who will be members of parliament for the next 5 years. 2 million of them are first-time voters. Kagame is facing 2 other contenders.
Electoral officials have started counting marked ballot papers after voters across Rwanda pick their preferred presidential and parliamentary candidates. Over the next 5 days, Rwandans will learn who their next leader is. As early as 5 a.m., hundreds of voters had already lined up at various polling stations across the country, hoping to be the first to cast their ballots. Some are voting for the very first time, and the excitement was evident.
No, I am so excited to be here to vote the president, and I am glad I am with my 2 kids who are voting for the very first time.
I take it as a big privilege to have a say in our nation's future and where it's going. I feel very privileged to have this opportunity to vote.
At 10:15 a.m., Democratic Green Party leader Frank Habineza and his wife arrived at Kimirongo 2 Primary School, located in a Kigali suburb, before casting their ballots. He became the first of the 3 candidates to vote. 30 minutes later, independent candidate Philippe Maimana also voted at Camp Kigali Primary School. The incumbent President Paul Kagame and his wife Jeanette Kagame voted at SOS Kagugu, located near their new family home in a Kigali suburb. Even though analysts predict Kagame will win the polls, Frank Habineza told journalists that he's expecting to win with 55%.
I'm hoping to get at least 55% of the vote for president and at least 10 times more MPs. We had 2 MPs last time, so we're hoping to have at least 20 MPs this time.
The ruling RPF Ingotani party, which has been in power since 1994, leads a coalition of 9 parties. Kagame has been Rwanda's leader since 2000 and has been highly praised by both Rwandan and some international observers for steering the country through a remarkable post-genocide recovery. About 9.5 million people registered to vote in Rwanda's 2024 presidential and legislative elections, up from 6 million in 2017. Close to 2,600 polling stations were set up for Rwanda's general elections, including 158 for the diaspora community across the world. At Kibagabaga Hospital, in the heart of Rwanda's capital, Kigali, caregivers and some patients are lining up to cast their votes here in the middle of the hospital. The National Electoral Commission has established polling stations at the major hospitals across the country to facilitate caregivers, patients, and health workers to cast their votes without leaving where they are. On Sunday, Rwandans in the diaspora cast their ballots at the country's embassies and consulates. Provisional polls results are expected by July 20th. The presidential winner will be declared based on simple majority vote. Partial results of the presidential elections will be published on the evening of July 15. Provisional results for both presidential and parliamentary polls are expected by July 20th, with final results to be announced by July 27. If there are no disputes, Rwanda's next president will be sworn in within a month after the final results are published. Ethan Tashobia for CGTN, Kigali, Rwanda.
Sports News brought to you. Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni Ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that, so when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO and the rest of.
At what point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni. In a world where challenges are as common as opportunities, there are those who dare to defy the odds. They are the entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a business. It's about embracing uncertainty, pushing boundaries, and turning dreams into reality.
Hata ambao ni pesa ya kusave. Wallahi. Ambao mwaka ni pesa nyingi sana.
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
The way we run the business is in a very unforgiving way, where every team member has to bring out their best.
So, to all the dreamers, innovators, and risk takers out there, remember, being an entrepreneur isn't just a job, it's a way of life. Join the journey. Become an entrepreneur. The Grind, Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Here on Beyond the Limit, we celebrate the extraordinary achievements of individuals who redefine possibilities. In a journey of resilience and determination, these individuals demonstrate that limitations are merely stepping stones to greatness.
I'm Nancy Njoroge, a mother of 3. I have 2 girls and a boy who is Clinton and who is autistic.
When my heart got healed, I decided to come out to be creating CP awareness, to let other people know that there is such a condition, and people that has it is not that they are witches.
Together, let's go beyond the limit every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Welcome to The Realtor, where we take you on an exciting journey from bare land to dream home. Step 1. Finding the perfect plot. We explore location, size, and potential. Next, construction begins. Witness the foundation being laid, walls rising, and rooms taking shape. Step 3. Electricity matters. We delve into wiring, switches, and smart home tech. Step 4. From paint choices to fixtures, it's all about aesthetics. Step 5. It's time to get the right furniture. Finally, the big day. Time to move in and create memories. Join us on the journey to making homes a reality on The Realtor, Tuesdays 6:30.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that. So when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of.
At what point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni.
In a world where challenges are as common as opportunities, there are those who dare to defy the odds. They are the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a business. It's about embracing uncertainty, pushing boundaries, and turning dreams into reality.
Hata ambao ni pesa ya kusave. Wallahi. Ambao mwaka ni pesa nyingi sana.
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
The way we run the business is in a very unforgiving way, where every team member has to bring out their best.
So, to all the dreamers, innovators, and risk takers out there, remember, being an entrepreneur isn't just a job, it's a way of life. Join the journey. Become an entrepreneur. The Grind, Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Here on Beyond the Limit, we celebrate the extraordinary achievements of individuals who redefine possibilities. In a journey of resilience and determination, these individuals demonstrate that limitations are merely stepping stones to greatness.
I'm Nancy Njoroge, a mother of 3. I have 2 girls and a boy who is Clinton and who is autistic.
When my heart got healed, I decided to come out to be creating CP awareness, to let other people know that there is such a condition, and people that has it is not that they are witches.
Together, let's go beyond the limit every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Welcome to The Realtor, where we take you on an exciting journey from bare land to dream home. Step 1. Finding the perfect plot. We explore location, size, and potential. Next, construction begins. Witness the foundation being laid, walls rising, and rooms taking shape. Step 3. Electricity matters. We delve into wiring, switches, and smart home tech. Step 4. From paint choices to fixtures, it's all about aesthetics. Step 5. It's time to get the right furniture. Finally, the big day. Time to move in and create memories. Join us on the journey to making homes a reality on The Realtor, Tuesdays 6:30.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that. So when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of.
At what point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi.
35 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to the Daily Report with me, George Maringa, right here on TV47, the home of untold stories. Tonight we ask which way Kenya, and who best to have this conversation with other than the distinguished Professor of History, Politics and International Law, Professor Peter Kagwanja. Welcome to our studios once again.
Thank you, Maringa.
It's indeed a pleasure to have you in the program. Last we were talking about the King and Queen.
Yes, the last time we were here,
yes,
the Queen was in town.
The Queen was in town.
Yes.
And now, as we speak, there seems to be some chaos in town.
No, the Gen Z are in town.
The Gen Z are in town.
Yes.
And a lot has been happening.
Yes.
But I want to, begin by asking you, we've seen what the President has had to say today. Talking about the Ford Foundation. Initially, it was international players, foreign entities, but today he was quite specific. What do you make of the trajectory that the President took today? And he was very categorical about the Ford Foundation.
I think the Gen Z revolt or revolution, depending on which word is suitable to your ear, is by and large spontaneous. Okay. It is very untypical of other kind of resistance we've seen, which are caused by localized issues. I know we have had a lot of university riots. We have had a lot of, opposition-led riots, but this is unique, extremely unique. You can only equate it to the Sudanese revolt of from 2018. It is spontaneous and also has very unique characteristics, that it steers clear of the divides in our politics. Our divides have largely been ethnic and more recently class, where we're talking about the hustler versus the the dynasties. Previously, it's community blocks versus, if you remember, the 2007, 2008 election and the post-election violence. Yes. So those are the main divides. There were attempts in 2002, the Moi succession, to bring in a generational aspect. I think I published widely around it. Yes. That time I was in the West, and was characterizing the 2002 election as a clash of generations. But this is unique because it's not a clash of generations per se, but it is a generation asserting itself as the one asserting the values and morality of our politics. It doesn't seem to be interested in taking over power. It has not even put structures that are discernible, that you can say these are structures to take over power. And I think that's where the president is missing the point. Nobody is interested, I think, in power from the way it looks. This is not to say that the future might not change, but for now, it is more or less of what you can call a moral regeneration agenda or campaign. And if you look at the focus and attention that is given by the Gen Z, it is not about taking over power. This is not a coup d'etat. This is not what you can call a revolutionary movement to immediately take power, but it is to transform power. There is no doubt, and nobody has any doubt in his mind or their minds, that the society has become increasingly decadent. It has become the opulence and the wealth and riches that followed the Kibaki administration, yes, has fed the greed and the kind of valueless society that came after, whether we're talking about Jubilee, Uhuru Kenyatta, or you're talking about the Hasra nation of Ruto. Yes. The underlying aspect is a kind of a quick degeneration into a society without morals. It doesn't matter how many institutions we have put in place, because whenever they are pushed into corner, they say, oh, we have the Anti-Corruption Commission, or we have this. But all these have been toothless bulldogs. They've not managed to clean up our society. And I think what the younger generation are saying, that we are ready to die to clean up this republic and bequeath future generations a society that is morally upright. It reminds me of Thomas Sankara. Yes. And his efforts. He would have fitted comfortably into the Gen Z world today. When he looked at the society, yes, that time called Upper Volta, that the Western African state had inherited from France, and it was totally decadent, and it was wasteful, extremely wasteful, completely unfocused in terms of his agenda, led by the idiosyncrasies and whims of the rulers than the priorities of the majority of the nation. The leadership of the time, both military and civilian, pushing its own agenda down the throats of the ordinary people. And Sankara was fed up. So in order to remind the people that they are on a revolutionary path, he started by renaming his country from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, which means the land of the incorruptible men and women. Burkina Faso in the Roko dialect that he spoke. And the citizens, everywhere they go, you say, I'm a Burkinabe, meaning I am upright. You cannot corrupt me. So that's where you start, by basically saying, I'm a man, I'm a noble personality. I am a man or a woman of virtue. And therefore you can transact with me. You can trust me. You can invest in me. You can, trust your institutions to me because I'm a man of virtue. I don't think we can say that. So when the young people asked that the cabinet be dissolved, they were saying this government, does not have the trust of the people to continue governing, either in terms of the skill or its dispositions.
Okay. Would then dissolving this cabinet have been the cure that that was much anticipated, and to what extent did it resolve and perhaps even reduce the tensions or even the agitation by these young people and whoever was calling for the dissolution of cabinet?
One thing we will leave to remember President William Ruto for is that he's a very perceptive Kenyan and understand the vibes and the changing temperaments of politics in Kenya. Had he insisted on staying tough, what you call in Kiswahili kangumu, had he done that, now the Kenya we are talking about now would not have been the same. So even despite all the calls that Ruto must go and all that, we must remember that he has taken a turn that has reassured our people. Despite all the challenges that we're facing, he has done something good. First, it was very, very important that he withdrew the financial bill 2024.
Yes.
I know people around him, particularly his, hardcore, neoliberal advisors around him, those who think that everything must come from the West, including the sun. I hope that will happen. We're telling him we're advising him actually to stay tough, and they are in the majority. So we congratulate on those who are in the minority, who basically got the president to have a team that he could rely on to say, let's pull back the finance bill. After all, Kenya is going nowhere. This is not the first or the last bills that we are having. We'll have many more. So that's one. Second, when the demand for the cabinet to be dissolved, he did not take a lot, and he just dissolved the whole cabinet. And he's not the first to do that. Moi also had done it before, if you recall, the 1983, that period. Moi did a lot of change in order to reassure the country and regain legitimacy among the Kenyans in those early years. And if you recall, even in 1964, Jomo Kenyatta did a those kind of reshuffles that were earth-shaking. And for a new nation, those were seismic. So Ruto is not doing something extraordinarily strange or that is completely out of order. He's simply trying to reset the nation, or he has reset the nation in a positive way. But the moment he yielded to the 2024 financial bill, and now Parliament, he has also to be prepared to go with the young people regarding where they go. Of course, we have drawn the red line. The red line for me is that we have to allow President Ruto and Gachagua to go up to 10th of August, 2027. Not because they cannot push for the removal before that time.
Yeah.
But what do they have as an alternative for the nation? I think we are not on an archaic path. We should be on the path to reform. Reforms that cleanses our nation and give it back to us as a moral entity that we are proud of. I think that's the change we're looking for. Yeah. Obviously, anything below Ruto and Gachagua is not a holy cow. There's not a holy cow below there.
Okay.
But this one is constitutional because when we were constructing the 2010 constitution, I think it was very central in terms of the intellectual thinking underpinning it, not necessarily the drafting. That was the role of the committee of experts. But we were thinking around the intellectual basis, the philosophical basis of the constitution. We wanted accountability in the hands of one person. But that person will not be alone. He'll be aided by an assistant with whom they can discuss so that we avoid the dictatorship of the time.
Okay.
And that this person is not at the whims of parliament or any other institution, it's him alone. But he can also exit. And we created 4 ways in which you can remove the president. He might decide to go to Mauritius or Seychelles with his loved ones and spend the rest of his time there because he's tired with Kenya. You can call that resignation if you wish.
Yes.
He can at the same time, be ill and incapable of handling it. And therefore, he can either be removed or remove himself. So impeachment, as it were. Yeah. Obviously, there's the hand of God. And that one we don't talk about because it's the hand of God.
God, yes.
But eventually, it is in the next election. That's the 4th way you can remove him. Okay. And in our case, it is 10th of August. You wait him out. You vote him in or vote him out. You'll have a choice to make that determination. And patience sometimes pay. So I think this is what we're going. So it's a balancing act between gaining through this momentum as much as reform as we can to claim back the lost morality, the lost glory of our country, to bring in some, what you can call, some intelligence into our government. I would be sorry to say, we've studied governments across the world. And Kenya's government is very unique, extremely unique, particularly after 2022.
Okay.
Because I have been in this ground for a while, the Kenyan ground for over 20 years. And I've been at the heart of politics. And I cannot tell you the names of half the cabinet. That tells you that these are not organic. This is not organic leadership.
Okay.
It is a leadership that has no basis, because what happens is in leadership, you grow through the rank. I can tell you who mentored me, and I can mention them with names without failing, and down with whom I was mentored, even in the government, and down who I have mentored myself. And those who have been mentored by those I mentored. So you have generations of leadership. And therefore you are changing, or we're talking about changing guards as you move. By the time I hit 70, I know I cannot do this job, I can only do that. Yeah. So you go that way. And that is how we were going. Up to and around 1992, we saw the leaders, the first generation, the Mois and others, then we started seeing them moving, and by 2010, you can tell who is who. Even those who are not in politics, those who are in civil society, like Willy Mutungas and others, they also have generations of the people they have mentored and those who mentored them. The problem with the new crop of leadership that came with this Hasura wave is that nobody can tell where they came from. They are professionals in their own right.
Okay.
They have papers, others have questionable papers, or other papers around which questions are raised. And there's a huge gap in that. And that's why they became vulnerable.
Yeah.
They became vulnerable because nobody could defend them. Nobody could stand up and say, I did. I know some, the cabinet, the cabinet, some Aris Wahome from my village, Zachary, my student at Moi University. That's the last time I saw him, and at Moi University, and so on. So I think we're looking for an organic government. And if you listen to the young people, what they are saying is that they don't want to take power. We want to be mentored by the best in the land, so that when their time comes, they will be equipped fully to chaperone this country into a brighter future.
Because even the current leaders, for instance, even President Ruto himself was mentored.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And you can track down the rise of Ruto and how he came to power. You can question the path or have debate around the path, but you know it. You know the values he could never have been exposed to because they were never there. You also know the values that he could have acquired because they were there. So you can now battle with his ideological disposition, but you know what mentor he's made of.
Okay.
The same case with Uhuru Kenyatta. You can say, and you can quarrel with it, like many of us have quarreled with that background, which is elitist in terms of who work with and so on, and certain very narrow focused posturing in terms of politics, which is not opening up but closing in, but at the same time populist. You are appealing to the popular, but in action you are not opening up society. So these are models. You can fight with them, but you can tell where they are coming from. But some of those that they're working from, you don't know where they're coming from. In other words, they have not grown organically into society.
And that makes them vulnerable.
Yes, and two, because of this loyalty to the party and the euphoria of the time, it also puts a number of people within that government to take certain paths that the society did not approve of. In other words, some level of arrogance, some level of insensitivity to the fact that you are a public servant, that you now begin to appear like you are actually the owner of this fiefdom. You are a fief in yourself. So therefore you can stand up on TV like this one and begin to talk about the phone that you have bought. And you know you are on a public salary. You are not a businessman. I have no problem with James Mwangi, Peter Monga, or other entrepreneurs who have never served in a public office in the sense of the way we know it, talking about my plane, my house or my phone. Why? Because that's what business people are about. You deal with wealth. But for the rest of us who depend on public resources, who don't make independent wealth or private wealth, you cannot have any audacity to stand up in the public and begin to talk about how much your glasses cost you, how many millions your glasses cost you, because you are saying you are insensitive to the feeling of society, and that was where the problem was. So you could sum it as people who have no experience in government to people who are insensitive to their responsibility as leaders in government, and three, people who have no mental map of where they are taking the country. Any road will take us there, as long as they get rich and they get famous.
And some have even had trouble explaining what the bottom-up economic model is.
Because the bottom-up economic model is a concept that was popularized by the World Bank. It doesn't mean that everything must come from the bottom, because there are very few good things that come from the bottom, very few. The glory of God comes from above. The sun comes from above, everything. But there is a reason why he talked about the bottom up. The bottom up is to care, to begin to ensure that the digital economy does not neglect the ordinary people, because we've moved to the knowledge age and the digital economy where just a few people control the wealth. What has been called by scholars 99% versus 1%. That the 1% is super rich, the 99% have become beggars. This is the kind of wind of change that swept Donald Trump into power. His populism is basically based on the idea that America is such a divided society in terms of the wealth gap. And that's what we assumed that the bottom up was to do here. It was to reverse the widening gap between the poor and the rich in the country, between the haves and the have-nots. And with Safaricom and other big digital companies as the main source of tax. And these are not producers. They're basically providers of service. Wealth does not come from service. Wealth fundamentally comes from production. And therefore, the ground of production was narrowing. Coffee is not paying well, tea is not paying well, avocados are popular, but they can't get us there. Milk has become monopolistic. All these issues doubled up to make the bottom-up approach very, very popular. But it does not mean that everything must come from the bottom. It simply meant that the focus will be on the bottom. And the focus here, as President Ruto would put it, is on the ordinary people who are struggling on a day-to-day basis. And I thought that was a huge idea. It's the same idea Moi Kibaki had. And it's an idea that propelled the Kibaki economy. That you expand the taxable base. Today we have about 3 million people, according to KRA and others, who are paying taxes. Only 3 million out of 56. And what does that mean? 1.3 million, I think, are in the public service. The others are in the informal sector. And what does this mean? That the tax base is narrow. It's like you are sitting on a sharp object, spear. It will pierce through you. But when you widen the base, then the stability is discernible. So what we are saying, in short, is that the bottom-up process should have empowered the vast of the ordinary people, the kiosk people. Then, when they are wealthy, tax them. A wealthy person has no problem in taxes. we give tips from the heart. Yes. And since we love this country called Kenya, it's our motherland. So much so that Kibaki, when he said, tulipe ushuru tujitegemee, yes, it was voluntary. And he put money in people's pockets. Okay. You look at the queues in Jivanjin Garden of people going to collect money from Equity, from a man called Gary, who was the financier of Equity when it was so small. Yeah. The queues were long. They were long. But you know how much they were going for? 100 shillings, 200 shillings. They're not going for thousands. No, 100. You borrow, you go and buy half a sack of mikohoro, the cob, the roast maize, yes, and then you roast, and then you pay. Kibaki only get 10 cents or 5 cents. But begin to imagine, if you get 1 shilling from 56 million people, how much we're talking about. You have expanded the tax base. Obviously, there were other interventions which I think President Ruto has begun to bring back. Okay. You focus on the youth. Do you know what we are talking about today? We are the first country that is beginning to feel the weight of our youth bulge. Talking about the first, Prof, let's take our first short break right here on the program, and then we'll be back to discuss more on this. I can see your questions are coming. We are all in class here listening to Professor Peter Kagwanja on Which Way Kenya, as we attempt to see, where we shall be heading as a country in the coming days. Do stay with us after this short commercial break.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that. So when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of.
At what point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni.
In a world where challenges are as common as opportunities, there are those who dare to defy the odds. They are the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a business, it's about embracing uncertainty, pushing boundaries, and turning dreams into reality.
Hata mbao ni pesa ya kusave. Wallahi. Mbao mwaka ni pesa nyingi sana.
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
The way we run the business is in a very unforgiving way, where every team member has to bring out their best.
So, to all the dreamers, innovators, and risk takers out there, remember, being an entrepreneur isn't just a job, it's a way of life. Join the journey. Become an entrepreneur. The Grind, Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Welcome back. You're watching the Daily Report with my guest, Professor Peter Kagwanja. He's policy advisor and strategist, a Kenyan intellectual advisor and reform strategist and policy thinker on governance, security and African affairs, a professor of history, politics and international law. Prof, thank you for staying with us.
Thank you.
Brilliant. And you know, your feedback is still very welcome. 22047 is our SMS line. Our WhatsApp number will be on your screens shortly. Please go ahead and channel your questions to the distinguished Prof. Start with your name, where you're watching us from, as well as your feedback, question or comment regarding the program tonight. Prof, and you know, as we sum up whatever we were talking about before the break, the Gen Z are also talking about, you know, a moral problem.
Yep.
As we look at, you know, the issues that have been raised, even on social media, overlapping on the roads. And, you know, a significant thing that we've seen over the last few weeks is that there were no more sirens on the roads in terms of those who needed to move earlier. And they were questioned, they were told, if you needed to move faster, you should have woken up early. And those are some of the issues that they seem to be correcting. When you look at even the movement that is going on and the counter, you know, because with every reaction, there is a counter reaction. When you look at even how it's being handled, do you think it's being handled in a way that is very conducive?
Hadud, I hope you are asking that I look at both sides of the coin.
Please.
And see what has happened. Let's look at the Gen Z side.
Yeah.
By the way, these are not people from the moon. These are boys and girls in our houses. They are our daughters and our sons.
Yes.
Actually, to be honest with you, and I hope President Ruto will listen to me keenly here, we are the real financiers of the Gen Z. Forget about Ford Foundation. We're the real financiers. Because some of these kids are coming to this maandamano through Uber. And some of them are not employed. They are coming from our houses. Right? That's where the anger is deep when one of them dies. Because it's our kids. And therefore, and it's not me alone. Even Ruto has kids. You had this beautiful conversation, which I'll never forget, between Raila Odinga and Raila Odinga. The difference is junior and senior. You know, the conversation they had was exciting for our times. And the junior said that at this age and time, you may share a name, but you are different. You are different individuals. Which is true. So junior definitely has sympathies for his generation. But he's coming from the senior Odinga's house. And many of us find ourselves in that kind of a situation. Actually, our houses have become the real battlegrounds, because we are advising our sons and daughters, please, mommy, don't do this, Baba, do you think this is right? I say, listen, we are not interested with what you are saying. You failed. Let us do it for you. Then after we have done it, we can have this conversation. That's how they are dismissing us. And it is true. We failed to win the 2023 financial bill. We failed to change things under Uhuru Kenyatta's system. And that's why we voted with anger for William Ruto. It was an angry vote that it was. And that is equal to the anger which you see in the public now. But what is the end of this anger? I don't think it is anarchic. It's not chaotic. It is not disorder. It's not subversive. Therefore, it is within the law. And that's why we can talk about it public. And it's something I would identify with. It is something you would identify with.
Yes.
Because we have no problem with a value-based leadership, value-based society. And this is what movement is about. Value-based because there is no reason why a medical doctor would be earning less than a member of parliament. It doesn't make sense. When at every stage you are demanding of somebody to have an A, possibly with an asterisk, the top of the A is what the French called crème de la crème of our society, are the ones who go to do medicine. And for God's sake, they stay longer than the rest of us. They go through very serious, rigorous training. And even when we are saying yes, for them they take an oath. Then the same person, somebody who has not done anything, never did anything, is ordering that they will have or they will not have any job. And the person presiding over them does not even know anything medicine, because according to things, they did medicine online. I mean, give me a break. The foundation of this society is meritocracy. That's what our founding fathers and founding mothers were about, meritocracy. That we want a merit-based society where you pass your exams, you get a good job. You work hard in the morning, and you are rewarded accordingly. That you serve your society well, you are given a medal by the president because you've served at the apex of your society. So we are a merit-based society,
yes.
But we have basically, destroyed, and undermined all these values and virtues that were supposed to be the basis of our society. And therefore loyalty becomes the issue. As one of our leaders would tell us, if you don't belong, you don't belong. This Kenya is Kenya Inc. Kenya Incorporated.
And you have
you have to.
Of shareholders.
Yeah. Oh. At that level, we had sunk to the bottom of the society.
Okay.
Thanks God, we are coming from there, and we are now beginning to know that Kenya is for all of us, and it doesn't matter whether you are elected this way or that. The law is the one that equalizes us. I think the young generation, the millennials and the Gen Zs are pushing us closer to a value-based society where it is merit that makes you a leader. It is not your heritage. It is not your status. It is not your association with which politician and which non-politician.
Okay.
Yeah, and I grew up. I mean, I grew up the later years of my life in societies where merit mattered. For example, and when they themselves, I grew up in South Africa. I mean, they spent a good deal of time in the United States and also in South Africa. And in South Africa, you could see that those who merit it are pushed forward. That it's a competition between those who merit. And you have difficult choosing between Thabo Mbeki or, what is the young man, the communist leader, who was there, or Ramaphosa that time. Yeah. So it's merit.
Okay.
And I think that's where the Gen Z revolt.
Let's now look at the other side of the coin.
The other side of the coin is very simple. Yeah. I sympathize with President William Ruto, really, sincerely I do. I sympathize with him because he was brought to power by certain teams. People who sacrifice their resources. People who put on the table serious money. People who put on the table serious time, invested everything they had, and they brought even the groups they had, whether it is a church, the congregation, they brought them to get him to power. And of course, immediately after the election, they were waiting for rewards. And some of them were rewarded. But now, President Ruto is called upon now by this revolt to disband himself. He is being told that the people who brought you to power don't merit it. They don't measure to the cut of being the value-based leaders that Kenya is looking for, the men and women of great talent that will move Kenya to the 21st century, and that will make Kenya competitive with Korea and Malaysia. Yeah. We don't see anybody in your cabinet. This is what they are saying. Maybe one, maybe none. They are telling him that the parliament with which you were elected was a euphoric parliament, that none of those people can be described as men or women of virtue.
Virtue.
So just sit with him and see his struggle. It is to ensure that he is also not accused of betrayal, that you betrayed those who brought you to power, or those with whom you rose. You can imagine him disbanding his cabinet with the Murkomen and others who were always around him, advising him, telling him how to move forward, maybe going to campaign with him, and now they're at home. And villagers swearing with all the oracles they know that you'll never even see a seat of the MCA. This is how villagers are putting it now. You see, they are swearing with every oracle they know that this man cannot even win a seat as MCA because of this and that. So the sympathies go to President William Ruto. But I hope he can read this week's article by Tony Blair. The advice was not to him, but to the incoming, the new Prime Minister in the United Kingdom.
Keir Starmer.
Yes. And he was telling Keith, listen, brother, there is a time we call election time, campaign time. At that time, hell is on promotion. You speak eloquently about the things you don't know. In fact, if you can convince you people that after you are elected, you'll harvest the stars for them and serve every home with a basket of stars, and they believe in you, you are a winner. But the day you are elected and become the executive, the game changes.
The game changes.
You are now an executive with certain expectations in terms of delivery. Therefore, it is only Kenya where people think that the people you fought with in the trenches are the same people you are going to govern with. And these are two moments requiring different skills and requiring different outputs. The output here is to get to government, and you get into government. The output in this other thing are the deliverables, good health care, affordable education, right?
Housing,
order, in the public spaces, and efficiency, and the glory of the nation, among other nations, not to be a laughing stock of other countries. When you walk out there, people could just say, oh, this is from Kenya. Then they have a moment of laughter because you're funny.
Prof, let's take another break. When we come back, we will then interrogate as we enter the home stretch, looking at what the future could potentially hold, where President Ruto should look into. Is there even hope to be able to find these people that he has said he will form a broad-based government with? We are taking another short break. When we come back on the Daily Report, you continue to speak to Professor Peter Kagwanja. Even as we monitor your feedback, please keep it coming.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that. So when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of.
What point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni.
Great. It is exactly 19 minutes past 10 p.m. Thank you so much for staying with us. We're still with Professor Peter Kagwanja as we look at which way Kenya. Prof, thank you so much for still staying with us. Thank you for your questions as well. Ask Prof, who do we expect to see in the next list of cabinet? That is Julius Thuthi. And allow me to combine that question with one that also came in from Austin Edwin, who asked a question for Prof. He has been constant and a present figure and is well versed on political and governance matters. If offered, would he be willing to take up a cabinet position?
Well, you can't advertise yourself if you are a person of decency. You always fake surprise that you are picked. Please let me have my moment of surprise and allow me not to answer that question.
Oh, okay.
But I have served before. I have served. I've served many governments, not just ours. I served under Kibaki, and I was, as I said earlier, one of the intellectuals with. I can mention Kibuda Kibwana, Mukisa Kitui, among others. Those who are really the intellectuals behind the constitution, because constitutions are normally pushed by the government, and. Yeah, so I can mention quite a number who are there. The late Stephen Jiro and Kamodo Iganjo, among others. They were there. And we served. Prior to that, I was with Amina Mohammed, Mwangi Dhuita, Molo, and we crafted Kenya's foreign policy and how we are going to lead it to the world. I was the chair of that task force. We even set up a Foreign Service Academy to teach our ambassadors and other appointees before they go out to represent Kenya, so they know exactly what interest they are serving for Kenya. I have served at the regional level, at the IGAD. I drafted the regional strategy on violent extremism, also displacement, the refugees and displaced persons for IGAD, the UN and so on and so forth. So the list is long. I've educated and shared my thoughts with Kenyans for 14 years consistently through my column on the Sunday Nation, which I treat as, I spend more time on it than I spend preparing for my classes at the University of Nairobi. Because I'm having a conversation with fellow Kenyans, and I've taken that as my duty. I've never failed. My colleagues at the Nation will tell you. They have had now 4 or 5 editors who have edited me, Come and Go, Muguma Munene. Now I'm having, you know, a war and others. And I keep. The reason is that commitment. And where did I get this from? I got it from Thabo Mbeki in South Africa, that every Friday he would share his thoughts with the countrymen. You may like them, you may not like them, but that's what gets democracy going.
Are they listening to whomever? I mean,
yes,
does anyone listen?
Yes, they do. One of my columns is, at least whenever I go to any village, whether I'm talking about Nyakach or Muranga, or I'm going to Kinango in Kware, or I'm going to Rodwa, anytime I go there, somebody, oh, I read you, or I watch you, or I listen to you. They do.
How about those in governance and those in...
They also do. Okay. I mean, last week I was with all the PSs in one of our forums, all of them, with no exception, all the PSs. And we were discussing pertinent matters relating to our country, a pertinent issue of patriotism. And the same thing we are talking about here, the value-based society as the most secure thing to do. Our security as a country depends on our integrity as a people.
Prof,
so we share a lot.
Okay. So a pertinent question has been the issue that we saw among the protesters is saying this finance bill 2024 was from the IMF.
Yes.
It's from the West.
Yes.
And President Ruto has come today and he's also blaming the same West. At what point do we then seem to address, because we seem to be diverting the problem?
No, I don't think, I think it is diversionary. This one I can tell President Ruto straight.
Okay.
Ford Foundation has been here for long. It educated me. It paid for my research. Yes, at Moi University. It paid for the research of my wife. And we served Kenyatta, we served him. So leave Ford Foundation alone. Let's look at the issues that the young people are mentioning. I said we are the real financiers of our kids, because we are the ones who buy the water they carry to the demonstrations. We are the ones who pay the Ubers, and eventually they are done, they come to our homes, right? When we lose them in these demonstrations, we are the ones mourning them. And since there is no fund to give them a decent send-off, we are paying for it, right?
The tune of millions.
Yes, so we are paying for their funerals. So we are the real financiers, and we are the real people who are bearing the brand, the full brand of this Gen Z revolution is us. But we also understand that they have no jobs and they're in our houses.
Okay.
Some of them are 3. One has a master's, the other one has a bachelor's, the other one has a bachelor and a diploma, and they are at our homes unemployed. So we have the onus to take care of them, but they can also see we are struggling, and we are unable to provide for them the way we are able to provide for them in the past, and therefore they're empathizing with that as well. So it's a discourse in our families. But if you're rich as to afford a watch that is worth hundreds of thousands, then you may not understand what I'm talking about.
And talking about,
because we are middle class ourselves.
Yes.
And the people who have taken the beating from this economy are the middle class. Do you know, there are some of us who are in Nairobi, living and educating our kids in Nairobi and going home to visit. But now we have moved from Nairobi and we are gone home, that we now visit Nairobi because we can't live here. Life is so unbearable that people have relocated to their villages and come to Nairobi when there is work. I have a colleague who I've always known him, and now he's coming all the way from Western Kenya in Kakamega. We call him when we have work, and after he's done, he retreats back to Western Kenya.
Okay. Prof, there's an interesting comment here. I have heard the advisor, and he's not well faced with who Gen Z really are, because he's telling only the good side of the Gen Z. But the reality is there is no knowledge or wisdom in the movement, only power. But power without control is dangerous and useless. This is because even after President towing down to the grievances, they're still pressing for instability, mandamano, which is a telltale that they are not good for. But there is a force behind them that pushes for toppling the government and turning Kenya into another Sudan, Libya, or Somalia. And wise Ruto is moving with a lot of courteousness to avoid any evil.
Well, I started off with a word of caution to my sons and daughters, the Gen Z. There is the red line. You heard that word.
Yes.
There's a red line in this, that you cannot touch President Ruto. All this must take place within the context of law. If any of them is geared towards going there, then obviously we have put our word across, and I'm sure they're listening to me.
Yes.
That if you don't want to go the way of Sudan, as Gen Z, you cannot push for the removal of the powers that be. That's why Ruto has no deputy in the military. He's the commander-in-chief, and the rest are his people, because that's how we created this constitution. Ruto did not create himself, we created him. The moment you want to remove him the way you want because you don't like his nose, then there's a problem, because it is not about him. It's about our law, the law we created for ourselves. That point we have made very clear. But below Ruto and Gachagua, there is no holy cow, because we have read an immoral society. The young people, a kind of a valueless society that we are ashamed to talk about. And therefore, we ourselves had given up. Some were thinking of going to buy houses and move out of Kenya. I remember one of my friends who asked me what I'm doing here. Why don't you go back to South Africa? That kind of discussion. I might look like I'm celebrating the Gen Z, but and the millennials, but this is not the point. I'm talking about this generation. Let me shock you.
Yes.
In this regard. The first generation of Kenyan Raibaritas, the Harethuku, were in their 20s. Jomo Kenyatta moved from here to London at the age of 28, right? To ask for freedom, because he was tired with the Carter Commission and all the other rules that the British colonialists had put. 28. The other generation, Dedan Kimathi, Mathenge, went to the forest at the age of 26, 28. Kimathi was born in 1920. Mathenge was born in 2019. General Kago was born in 2019. They were Gen Z when they went to the jungle, to the forest to fight for freedom. I was 25, or 25, 26, when we marched to Kamukunji with the Jaramogi Odinga, Matiba and others to fight for the second liberation. And most of the young people are young Turks. If you talked about my friend, Imanyara, Getobu Imanyara, James Orengo, and others, who are our seniors. But we call them young Turks. Freedom in this country has always been won by the young, not the old.
Not the old.
Because when we reach a certain level, there are other issues we consider which are extraneous to the freedom of a country or to a free nation like Kenya. So when the young people say that the only thing they fear, I'm sorry to put it this way, is pregnancy and hot porridge, they are simply saying they have nothing to lose but they themselves. It's a very poignant statement. For us, we have more to lose, because I think about my family, my children, and so on. Therefore, there's a limit to how I will talk. And if I talk openly, my fellow colleagues will ask me, will talk about Professor Kagwanja being careless. In fact, some do.
Yes.
They think I'm so careless. I don't. Very, very unlike a Kikuyu, who is very withheld
and reserved.
Reserved. You talk with low tones, dignity. You go to church and all. This is not a typical Kikuyu kind of a thing. So essentially, we look at things we value. But the younger generation, the Haridukus, the Kimathis, the Kagos, and now the Gen Z, these are the people who have pushed the frontiers of our freedom, the frontiers of our democracy, the freedom, the frontiers of our liberty. Yeah, so I'm not praising a generation. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
It is historically demonstrated.
Brilliant.
That it is these people who have borne the brunt of our liberation.
Indeed. Prof, let's take another break and then we come back with more questions. Brian, I see your question. Cornelius as well. Keep your feedback coming. We're back in a few minutes with Professor Peter Kagwanja right here in studio on Pan Politics tonight as we ask, which way Kenya?
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that. So when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of.
At what point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni.
In a world where challenges are as common as opportunities, there are those who dare to defy the odds. They are the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a business. It's about embracing uncertainty, pushing boundaries, and turning dreams into reality.
Hata mbao ni pesa ya kusave. Wallahi. Mbao mwaka ni pesa nyingi sana.
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
The way we run the business is in a very unpredictable.
Welcome back and thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching the Daily Report with me, George Maringa. My guest is still Professor Peter Kagwanja, a professor of history, politics and international law. And when at the start of this program, Prof, I quoted the famous Kikuyu proverb, an old man sitting on a stool can see further than a young man who has climbed a tree. And it is a phrase that we've had, along the lines. Your colleagues, those, advanced in age as well, have said, it is okay that this revolution has happened, but perhaps they would need to have guidance and counsel on what more to ask, because some argued that dropping the finance bill was such an easy ask for this government, so much so that even the referendum that we've seen, there is always a poignant question. It is direct and it comes down with trickling of other issues. Do you think then that the approach is right in terms of how this is going forward, and how would you advise the young people?
Nation building is a dialogue. It is usually a multi-generational dialogue. Because it's a dialogue between those who are governing and those who are coming to govern. And it's also a dialogue between those who are governing and those who have governed before. That's why I'm saying it's a multi-generational dialogue. And if you take the example of America, for example, Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, now Obama, and others, George Bush, they have such a huge position in shaping opinion about their country. When they tried to assassinate Trump, among the first voices of reason that came up are these ones. Because everybody believes in them. They have lived as the nation's best, and that's why they are called statesmen. The name statesman comes from the idea that you have served at the apex of the state, then you are a statesman. In other words, you are not a parochial person from the neighborhoods and states. You are a statesman. At the same time, these statements are in conversation with those who are in power. And those in power are listening to them. But at the same time, those in power are shaping the future of their nation. And in shaping the future of the nation, you have to be in dialogue with the younger generation. The problem with our leadership is that it was very inward-looking and very parochial in the sense of the party politics. That when you start only listening to those who brought you to power and you don't embrace those who are not there, then we have a problem. If you recall, the most successful phase in our democracy was also the most trying time. The Grand Coalition that brought in everybody. Raila Odinga was a co-principal with Kibaki. In there was Kalonzo Musyoka, who had gotten himself 8 million votes from Mukamba, 8% of the vote from Mukambani and other places where he got the vote. We had everybody in terms of the left and the right, if there is something like that within our democracy. Everybody was there. So it was an inclusive government. And that's why we are very nostalgic about it. Yet it was not the best of the times, because the power sharing of that kind, or that Grand Coalition government, did not come peacefully. But we used that opportunity as a people to have a dialogue between the old and the young. I recall myself, I was on the government side of the secretariat, and Janet Ongera was on the ODM side of it. We are in the secretariat. We're learning that. On top of us was Anyang Nyong'o Peter, my professor, and Kiraito Morongi. And on top of the two was Raila and Kibaki, but they also had their own teams. From this side, there was Kalonzo Musyoka. On this other side, we have, very many people from the ODM side. Yes. Very, very venerable men. And therefore, when we moved on a topic or on a subject of reform, we were literally moving together. Why am I bringing this example? It's because it's an inclusive government led by enlightened men and women that creates a great nation. It is not this small, inclusive, isolationist kind of a system which we have witnessed in the past, which gets you anywhere, where you are almost taking a messianic role that you want to save Kenya. From what? We've been here. Let's discuss. Don't save us. Don't bring houses to us because we are not sleeping outside. Let's discuss whether this is the kind of thing we need. Don't bring this medical system because you think it's good. Let's discuss. And that's why the concept of participation is at the heart of our democracy. And when Omtata and others go to court and say this issue lacked popular participation, the court does not question, because that is at the heart of our democracy. Inclusivity.
Inclusivity.
So if you have to summarize our democracy today, it is inclusivity because we are a multi-identity kind of society. So inclusivity is key. Inclusivity of the minority and the majority, the marginalized and those who are in the mainstream. That's key.
So how should then the president have this dialogue? Of course, we've seen what has happened with the former prime minister. How then should the president curate this dialogue? It was supposed to start today.
There is no supposed to be dialogue. The dialogue is going on. There is a difference between dialogue in the formal sense, where people come with the suits and ties and others come with their attire, traditional, whatever you want to do, to come and talk, the way we were doing in the Bomas and so on. Kenya is way past that because we have a perfect constitution. Nobody is questioning any article of our constitution. I have not seen a movement that is seeking to reform any part of our constitution. Therefore, we are comfortable with the law and order that we have. We are uncomfortable with the values that our leadership is embracing. And you cannot go to discuss morals in a conference. It's absurd. I mean, whether you are supposed to do this or that. No. We cannot go discuss morals. Chapter 6 of our Constitution, leadership and integrity, yes, has spelled out things, but operationalizing them has become a problem because people have different, scales of what they call morality, and therefore, what this revolt, I am calling it revolt, not to be accused of terming this a revolution. The revolt by the young people is about going back to the drawing board and basing our country on values and a moral code that can be inherited. So that when you are asked who is a Kenyan, you don't just say this is a person who eats ugari, who loves nyama choma, and who announces funerals in every forum that they have, contrary to Tanzania, where you are told so-and-so died and was buried. Here, you can spend all the time on this, and you can see what is happening. Yes. So you have better way of defining a Kenyan in terms of the values that we hold. Now, and there are some, I work very closely, very, very closely with the Somali communities, not necessarily in Kenya, but across the border and so on. There is something you can trust and take home. When a Somali tells you, I'll do this, he'll do it, or she'll do it. And trust that they will do it. The word trust. And that word trust means that you can basically live without money because you can borrow and return, and you are trustworthy that you not run away with that kind of money. You've seen us buying newspapers and sweets and jugu karanga on the roadside. And those hawkers are very trustworthy. I've had to just ask very quickly, what's your number? 07322344, and they read the number and I copy it. They allow me to go with their chewing gum, they allow me to go with their jugu karanga and whatever, trusting that I'll pay.
Because you don't have the cash.
I don't have the cash, I only have M-Pesa, and the vehicles are moving fast. I cannot keep the traffic, the lights have turned green, and I have to buy. So they trust. And they give, is it the day before yesterday? A young man at Thika Road, Juja, gave me, chewing gums, for 120. And Maraga, that is his name, if he's watching, I'm sure. Maraga gave me, and my phone was off, and I was wondering how he was feeling. By evening, it is 8 o'clock, I've not paid him. By 9 o'clock, I put back, and I paid Maraga at 9 o'clock, and I had gotten his sweets by midday. Are you getting it?
Yes.
That is trust. The problem in our society today is lack of trust with our leaders. So they give you their word, you can't trust them. So that's why we are calling this a value revolution.
And of course, things cannot continue like that, Prof. And with the disbanding of the dismissal of the dissolution of the cabinet, who are the individuals that perhaps the president should go to? What should he look at?
No, he needs to listen to what young people are saying. I mean, I'm not trying to be a genius in this, but as I said at the beginning, these are our children. If you don't listen to your children, your own business. The point is, what is it that they're saying? Where they are excessive, you stand up and say no. Because you'll notice where they're excessive. Like the idea of, occupying, State House, I think that was on the top. Occupying the streets, occupying everything. The Saramus are getting a little bit excessive. And I'm not saying, I don't want to be greeted.
Yeah.
But the sense is that there are certain people who had gone beyond the pale. And therefore, the young people, remember also, they are committed to this movement. But look at the end of it. It's a dialogue. It's a dialogue at the wrong time, but the dialogue is not our traditional dialogue, where we go to bombers and talk and come up with a paper of resolution of Agenda 4, like the one we did with Kofi Annan and others. This is not. This is about putting, a kind of resetting the nation and putting it back to a moral code.
Charles from Nairobi is saying, Prof, I am enjoying the program. Thank you, Charles. What the Gen Z want is basically for Ruto to do what is constitutional, period. For example, stop corruption, remove unconstitutional offices like the Prime Cabinet Secretary, stop borrowing without Parliament approval, etc. These don't require dialogue, nor do they require a broad-based cabinet unless he wants to kill opposition. Why can't the professor use his position to advise the president to do the simple thing? Charles.
No, we have, and I think they are listening. The president now does not need Professor Kagwanja's advice.
Okay.
Because the internet has done it for us. The digital platforms that are available have done it. And yesterday, I retweeted something I found from the young people, and I found it very interesting.
Okay.
And I said it is very creative. They had decorated a Pajero, a very beautiful car with a flag, and said that this is the way perhaps our ministers and PSs and others should be painting the cars, so that we know when they are moving the cars. So that if you move with 300 of those cars, then we know we are the one who is wasting our money.
Our money.
Well, these are some of the suggestions that are being made, and I think the answer given by that countryman about that these are things we know. Like, for example, we created a cabinet of 26 people, deliberately, whereas 22 ministers selected and appointed because of their excellence in their areas, and also their leadership qualities. Then you have on top of that the Attorney General and the Secretary to the Cabinet. That gives you 24. And then you have two, the Deputy President and the President. That's what we created. Then below there, then you move up and create 47 or 48 CAS. You appoint 61 permanent secretaries to do what? So we are capable, and this is something I would be ready to go down with. We are capable of paying all our debts on schedule, on time, without fail, and without feeling pain. If we really do what the president has been asking, that we live within our means. So and that means that if you look at the money the young men and women have saved us, just counting on your fingers, 700 million. You can count them all their fingers. Yes. I have done them without taking a pen, and I'm seeing about 7 billion, which has been saved by just doing certain things. So from an economic perspective, we will save money. From an ethical perspective, we are going to live within the law and abide by our law, and bequeath that to our future generations, that we are upright men and women, and that this is land of the incorruptible. Two, we make corruption expensive, because you can never prevent people from being corrupt. That you can't, because human beings are capable of being good or bad, altruistic or sadistic. Those are the two extremes. In between is the law. And therefore, if somebody is corrupt, including myself, let corruption be more expensive than not being corrupt. If you are not corrupt, you are rewarded. If you are corrupt, you are punished. The two P's matter, pain and pleasure. They matter. So here in Kenya, if you are corrupt, to be honest with you, you are seen as a genius. So the moment you enter office, somebody asks you in my mother tongue, which is a very common question, hey, Professor, Professor, do you have wealth? In other words, did you use your time when you are in power to accumulate? You don't have to be corrupt in order to be wealthy. No, to be wealthy is very simple. You use the right paths and you make wealth.
Okay.
Yeah, it is very easy.
Mike, saying a question, Professor should answer about living with choice or choices. I think it's about choices have consequences.
Yeah, well, choices have consequences. I know we choose, the Hasra nation and put it in power, and therefore we are supposed to live with those consequences. No, we are into serious business of nation building. And nation building is not a walk in the park. It's painful. It's conflictual. I think President William Ruto is seeing it, because having won an election in the way he won it, the competition, the resources, the energy. Do you know how many times he visited my county of Maringa? I pity him. He visited over 800 times, talking to people, having meetings there, so that you can convert an area which is not of your ethnic group into and it paid off. Everybody there voted for him. From the MCAs, 35 of them, 7 members of parliament, senator, governor, women rep, everybody is yellow. And then all of a sudden, these young people come to the street and you have to sack everybody, including members of parliament. So you can see, but those are the pangs of nation building. Because you don't build the nation alone.
Okay.
You build it as a group, and you build it collectively.
Okay.
It's a collective endeavor.
Ask our guest, does he think that there is a security lapse in our country? Does he think NIS are doing enough? How can such be happening, or how can such happenings go on for that long without the radar of NIS agents?
I think the transitions are difficult moments. Okay. Remember, we have just come from a transition. There was a Kibaki Uhuru transition. There's an Uhuru Ruto transition. And transitions are usually difficult moments. But at the same time, I think our security forces, and I work with some of them in terms of the advice given where I sit, we need to think, as they say, outside the box, or possibly throughout the box, all of the same. Yes. Take, for example, what has happened in Shakahora, and I've said this elsewhere, or what has happened now in Kware. It's young girls in their 20s, early 20s. If you look at Shakahora, there are people, largely from Western Kenya and other parts, who are either children or in their 20s. Now, in the NIS and their reports to Parliament, because they are required by law to report to Parliament. Yes. If you have access to their reports to Parliament, which I've had the privilege to look at, one of the main challenges in this country has been human trafficking or drug trafficking. Today, the mega business that's scooping billions and billions is organ trafficking, kidney and the heart. It's a $1.7 billion economy annually. That's what it's earning in the world. And it is very close to us. One of the largest markets is here in the Middle East. The big question is, NIS, DCI, are we dealing with criminals or entrepreneurs of organs? There's a question you have to ask and probe that. And how do you get it? All those kids those small girls and boys we are taking to mortuary, do they have kidneys and do they have hearts? If they don't know, they don't have, then you know that is the reason why they are lured into hotels or wherever they are going and meet their fate. I might be wrong, but check all the kids from Shakahora. Because there cannot be so many deaths without a reason. And this is a capitalist country where people do things for commercial reasons. So what is the commercial motivation to kill 42 girls. So you might be having a supply. This is the only country where we have moved so low in our moral fabric that you can sit around a table and talk about, do you think you can get me a kidney of 18-year-old? Around the table. It's so immoral.
Okay.
And it is happening. So I am kind of saying that we need our security forces, or those guarding our security, must now think outside the box, because the globalization of the economy also means globalization of crimes.
Indeed. Prof, as we wind up, last question here, Brian from the coast, he actually sent you a screenshot of your tweet. As part of ongoing reforms, all state-funded bursaries must be merged into one fund. Absurdly, today Kenya is running a whopping 54 parallel state-funded bursaries: Higher Education Loans Board, HELB, 47 county government bursaries, national government, that is NGAF, presidential secondary bursary, Kenya Institute of Social Work, community development, presidential bursary scheme for orphans and vulnerable students, and higher education funding. You said this will end corruption and depoliticize the funding of education. Brian asks how.
Now, in this country, I grew up in this country, and I went to school in this country. I was on scholarship, government scholarship. Went to Nairobi University, then we moved to Kenyatta University. Then I got a master's scholarship and went back. And in those days, I learned how to eat because I came from the rural area. I had never seen jelly and ice creams and those kind of things. So it was comfortable. And with the money I was getting, I could pay for my sister. I paid for her school fees throughout secondary school. And now she's on her own and she's doing well, I would suggest. And I finished paying for my money 4 years ago. And that's when I get the certificate of clearing from HELB. 4 years ago. Yes, because I went abroad and I came back and I had to finish what I had not paid. So there is no, wherever I go, I went to America, went to UK, went to South Africa, and finally I came home and I paid their own HELB.
4 years ago?
Yes, that's when I finished and I got a certificate 4 years ago. Now, what am I saying? We have, how many loans do we have? I mean, how many bursary funds do we have in this country? 344 plus. That is, CDF has loan attached to, bursaries attached to it. Every MP is giving bursaries. It has become a big business. 290. It's a big business, political business. A woman goes to pick the forms on Monday, return them on Tuesday, go to listen to the rewards on Wednesday, is awarded on Thursday, and on Friday they go to Muheshimiwa for the baraza. Those are 5,000, and then you end up getting 3,000 for bursary. That's how connish this system has become. We have other bursaries. Every county government has a bursary. Some have enough money to take their kids to Harvard. Check around. Some counties have enough money to give for kids to go to Harvard. Others will give 3,000. And it's a debate in our public square, when our public sphere, where we are talking about, 1 shilling, 1 shilling. The debate is about who can give what loans. So we have 47. Then you can add the national one, including 2 presidential ones for the disabled and for the I have listed them in the articles and so on. I am suggesting we need to merge all these funds and calculate the money. Those who have the pen, you will be able to pay for primary and secondary education freely, and to give every kid who need a loan at the higher tertiary and university level, and we return dignity to our people.
Indeed.
So it is about reorganization. We don't need to talk about the funding of education, the vulnerables, what my teacher, my friend and colleague was trying to struggle with, having the so-called vulnerability. You need about, we need to invent a machine called nidometer. nidometer to be able to measure the needs of people. So if you have to avoid that path of inventing a nidometer, which is very difficult, then you have to merge these either into one or two. I would suggest help being reformed and beefed up.
Okay.
Every kid, whether you are in private school, whether you are rich or poor, you belong to this country. All the banks give money to whoever want to have them. Whether you are rich or poor, you get money from one source.
Prof, we are out of time. 30 seconds. Could you speak to Kenyans and just...
I think we need to seize this moment to put our country on an even keel. The even keel of value-based leadership and a value-based society, where we become a merit-based society that those who get are those who deserve. And those who deserve look back and help those that they left behind. Then we become a moral society. Otherwise, the Gen Z revolution is not an Al-Shabaab. These are not rebels. These are not externally funded. These are our boys and girls, and they are speaking for us because we stopped speaking, because we were afraid. Now, they are not afraid. So let's listen to them. We don't need formal dialogue in Bomas of Kenya or any other platform. What we need is to listen to each other. We listen to the Gen Zs, and the Gen Zs also listen to us. They listen to the government, and we listen, and then we move together as a nation.
Indeed. What a way to wind up the show. Thank you so much, Professor Peter Kagwanja, our guest tonight, our policy advisor and strategist. And we also appreciate your feedback, Prof. As always, we look forward to having these conversations with you, and we look forward to having you in studio once again soon. Brilliant. And we also want to wish you a good night from Nairobi. I am George Maringa. As we also thank you for watching us tonight. As always, stay safe and be kind to one another.